Now to the opioid epidemic in the US, which is overwhelming hospitals from coast to coast. Data published on Tuesday shows that between 2005 and 2014, there was a 64% increase in emergency room visits for opioid-related issues.
In 2014 alone, that meant nearly 1.3 million people sought emergency care. And daily hospital admissions or emergency room visits skyrocketed from 1,800 in 2005 to 3,500 in 2014. The data shows that poorer communities are hit harder by the epidemic than wealthier ones. However, hospital visits went up between 75% and 85% across all income ranges.
So, in response, states are now turning their attention to the pharmaceutical industry. On Wednesday, Missouri became the latest state in the nation to sue drug companies for allegedly downplaying the addictive qualities of the opioid painkillers.
We are seeking hundreds of millions of dollars in damages and hundreds of millions more in civil penalties. We are seeking, in short, one of the largest judgments in Missouri history. And this is why these companies have helped create an epidemic of drug abuse never before seen in Missouri history.
So far, Ohio, Mississippi, West Virginia, some counties in New York and California, and the city of Chicago have also filed similar lawsuits. Well, for more, Dr. Reef Karim joins us now. He's the founder and medical director of the Control Center of Beverly Hills. Reef, good to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah,
Missouri does seem to be especially hard hit. If you look at some of the numbers here in this opioid epidemic, the death rate there is 9 deaths per 100,000 people, compared to less than 6 per 100,000 nationally. So, any explanation for that?
Yeah, the Midwest has been hit quite a bit, and a lot of the fentanyl compound that was put in the pills, black market, has made its way into the Midwest. So we've seen a lot more deaths in that area. But, you know, I applaud these states for doing it, and the city of Chicago, because something needs to be done. And there's a system here. And the system is, there's a problem, an ailment, a sleep problem, anxiety problem, pain problem. Pharmaceutical company makes a medication. They then market that medication to the doctors with the hope that the doctors will prescribe it. But then all of a sudden, the pharmaceutical companies started doing direct-to-consumer marketing. And their marketing practices are what they are.
Well, that sounds like the basis of this suit in Missouri, because the governor says, has accused the drug companies of deception, misrepresenting the addictive risks of the opioid drugs, and using fraudulent science to back up their claims. So I guess from, you've dealt with these pharmaceutical companies. Is that your experience, I guess, without getting us into legal trouble here?
Yeah.
But isn't there a certain amount of responsibility on the doctors?
Well, without getting into legal trouble, because we know that's very important here. I mean, think about this. Let's be real. The product label and the drug label for these medications made by the pharmaceutical companies are tiny. Tiny. I mean, I have a hard time reading them, just looking at them in front of me. But yet their marketing practices, whether it's in medical journals or it's a commercial where someone's laying on a hammock just swaying in the wind because they got that medication and they feel really great, their practices aren't consistent with what the labels are saying. So if you don't say, hey, this medication has great abuse liability, that could be looked at as potentially fraudulent.
Okay, well, a spokesperson rather, for Janssen, one of the pharmaceutical companies named in this lawsuit, told the Kansas City Star that the company acted appropriately, responsibly, and in the best interest of patients regarding our opioid pain medications, which are FDA approved and carry FDA mandated warnings about the known risks of the medications on every product label. That's to your point. Okay, so you say that the labels are too small, no one reads them, but, you know, this has been approved by the FDA. They are following the rules, right?
Yeah, technically they're following the rules. What I think the states are trying to do here is go after the company like they went after Big Tobacco. But the problem with Big Tobacco was they weren't regulated by the FDA back in the 90s. I think it was 2009 that it shifted. So they can hide, the pharmaceutical companies can hide behind the fact that, hey, it's FDA approved. Come on, what's the problem?
What have we done wrong? Yeah.
And then the doctors need to inform every single consumer if a medication has abuse liability and what the alternatives and the risks are of any medication. But ultimately, this really comes down to the consumer. You have to ask the doctor. You have to read the product label. You know, I hate to say that, and I don't want to push it on, you know, every person here, but this is a crisis. This is an epidemic. This is no joke.
Very quickly, we're almost out of time. The Trump administration is pushing its health care plan through the Senate right now. There are big cuts to Medicare, Medicaid, which means big cuts to these addiction programs. More than 50,000 people died of an opioid related death last year in the US. So if this plan goes through, is this problem only going to get worse?
Yeah, this is very scary because Medicaid particularly is covering a lot of lower insured, low-income individuals. And medication-assisted treatment costs, up to $300 or more a month. But it works so well. Right. If you cut that, it's going to be a real problem. It's going to be scary.
And we've seen that this is a crisis in those very poor parts of the country as well.
Absolutely.
Reef, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.